personne n'a intérêt à ce que l'Afrique se développe trop.
But no one is interested in Africa developing too much. Because if it develops tomorrow, let's imagine Africa develops its industry like South Korea did, a country that was as poor as Mozambique 60 years ago. If tomorrow it starts making cars, if tomorrow it starts refining its oil, if tomorrow it starts doing agriculture and transforming its agricultural products, it will no longer buy our imports. And so we are not interested in that situation. We are not interested. So the will of the rich countries. We're talking about geopolitics today. Everywhere we see, there is clearly no interest in these countries developing. These less developed countries.
Dans la tête des gens que
There was this idea, actually in people's minds, that you develop a country with entrepreneurs. It's an important part, but it's not the main part. An industry is needed, a heavy industry. These countries export oil, export cocoa, export raw materials, but these raw materials they export are often processed in other countries. And processing is what creates jobs.
quand vous avez une compagnie étrangère qui s'installe, je prends toujours l'exemple moi du Congo Brazzaville que je connais bien.
When you have a foreign company setting up, I always take the example of Congo-Brazzaville, which I know well. Congo-Brazzaville, over 90%, only exports oil. This oil is produced by whom? Exploited by whom? By mostly private companies. 60% total, 30% ENI. The Italian, 90% of the company. Then you have a few companies here and there, private ones.
L'ensemble de son pétrole. Elle récupère une partie de l'argent, mais elle est incapable de l'exploiter.
The public Congolese oil company is unable to do drilling. It is unable to exploit all of its oil. It collects part of the money, but it is unable to exploit it. So all the knowledge on production, on reserves, all the quantities, production volumes are decided by the private company, which does not depend on the country. So that's the first thing. There is a real asymmetry of information between the state and the company. The prices of their goods, 90% of exports, therefore oil, the price is not determined by Congo. It is determined by the financial markets. So, when there are tense geopolitical situations like now, prices go up, it benefits them.
Et l'État congolais rachète de l'essence à ces pays-là. Donc la réalité, c'est qu'il voudrait qu'il y ait une industrie qui puisse transformer.
When the price is zero, as in the COVID period, nothing comes in. Nothing comes in. So we can see that there is a very strong dependence. And then this product is exported, processed in France or elsewhere. And the Congolese state buys gasoline back from these countries. So the reality is that there should be an industry that could transform this production on the spot. And it is this one that would create jobs, refineries, distribution, etc. But to have that, what is needed? Funding is needed to finance heavy industry. It's not with €1 of microcredit that you're going to finance heavy industry. And this funding, if the banks don't want to lend it, who will lend it? It's China, but China is a country. It will lend it under certain conditions. Conditions sometimes on access to raw materials or more advantageous sharing of production for them, and so it does not allow them to be completely independent. And it must be kept in mind that rich countries have developed in a world where they created conditions that were favorable to them.
Yeah, but let's be honest here. At least China is developing Africa, okay? Let's be real. China at least is developing Africa. And if Africans don't know how to do their businesses, it's their fault, not the Chinese fault. You know what I mean? Because the Chinese, they came in. What do you guys want? Do you want city? Do you want transportations? Do you want bridges? Do you want ports? I'm going to build that for you. Okay, but 70% it's mine, 30 yours, during 27 years. And after 27 years, it's your port, it's your city, it's your bridges, it's your whatever. That's the difference. Europeans and Americans, they don't do the same. They come in, they create proxy wars, they bring their army there that protects only the space where you can find the resources, the minerals, and they create roads between the minerals and the ports to ship them out of the country. That's it. That's it. Okay? At least China is developing something. I don't care. At least we start to see hospitals, unis, roads, bridges. Everything. okay? Public transportations. You go to Ethiopia, Angola, you'll see them. But Europeans, Americans never did that, except stealing Africans' resources and minerals. That's insane. So, okay, it may be a debt, but 27 years for a nation, it's nothing. Okay? It's really nothing. That's it.
The WTO, the World Trade Organization, is an organization that has favored rich countries much more than poor countries.
Pas à lever de l'argent.
Quels seraient les...
Ce que je veux ajouter, excuse-moi, je te coupe.
The financial system, with mostly European and American banks, the rich countries. And so rich countries raise huge funds to carry out their projects, while poor countries to carry out projects we know. That is to say, to do things we know, refineries, food, agricultural industries. We know how to do that. Well, they can't raise money. What I want to add, excuse me, I interrupt you. What I want to add is that we have often said in recent years that poor countries were not developing because of corruption. We had to find a reason. It's corruption, the informal economy. These people are corrupt. There is an informal economy. They do not respect the rules. They are corrupt. Some even went further by saying that they are a bit lazy. It has always been a bit like that. And we found the same kind of debate when there was the sovereign debt crisis in Europe, where we called the southern countries pig. They were called Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain. They were called the pig. They were said to be lazy, that they were in the informal, that they were not like the Germans and the French. This debate already existed with African countries. They don't work, they are lazy. They don't have good training, they are corrupt. Very well, that's what we said. If tomorrow I were given the reins of Congo, Brazzaville, and I was told what the formula is in the current conditions to get it out of underdevelopment and make the economy take off, it would be extremely complicated. And I would tell you that I don't have the solution. Because it's a country, in fact, that does not have control over development at all. Because it does not have access to financing, as I've said. Because it does not control the main good it produces. Because it does not control the volume and the price. And so developing a country under these conditions is extremely difficult. So corruption is actually a collateral effect. The real problem is the World Trade Organization and the financial system as it was created. Would you say that there has been a stranglehold by the northern countries? I'll explain, for example. We are looking for what the exit routes are, and especially by whom. Because you may have the preconceived idea of, yes, the northern countries are going to help the southern countries again. But in fact, it is because there is a stranglehold and also an enrichment of the northern countries thanks to and by the southern countries. For example, Zambia just had extra time to pay back, but the debt was not written off or reduced, etc. There are also negotiations on the next contributions of rich countries for the upcoming 3-year period, which will soon begin and should end in December 2024. There are also many solutions put forward by the IMF, which are considered as not enough actually. Which way now do you think should be oriented towards? So it is exactly what you said. That is to say that in reality, Africa buys a lot of imports from Europe, and also mainly from France. And we buy a lot of things we need and don't produce, including oil and raw materials. So Western countries are not interested in Africa falling. Because if it goes very badly, if there is not a situation at least stable, what happens? We risk having fewer raw materials that we need, and in exchange, we risk selling them fewer things. So we have to maintain Africa in an intermediate situation, so that it is rich enough to buy our goods and stable enough for us to buy the goods we need, those we really need, energy and raw materials. But no one is interested in Africa developing too much. Because if it develops tomorrow, let's imagine Africa develops its industry like South Korea did, a country that was as poor as Mozambique 6 years ago. If tomorrow it starts making cars, if tomorrow it starts refining its oil, if tomorrow it starts doing agriculture and transforming its agricultural products, it will no longer buy our imports. And so we are not interested in that situation. We are not interested. So the will of the rich countries. We are doing geopolitics today. Everywhere, we can clearly see that there is no interest in these countries developing, these LDCs. Now, if I were in the place of Africans, it is very difficult. That is to say, for me, the first thing I would do is I would be much more aggressive in negotiation. Because if you don't have financing, then you can hold grand speeches. It's always nice. But once you get to the concrete, what is Africa today concretely? as it does not have access to financing, as it does not control the goods it produces, in volumes as in prices, it is trying today, for there to be activity, to attract as much foreign direct investment as possible, by creating free zones where very little tax is paid, saying that this is the only way we have to restart the economy, which does not allow it either to develop its industry, because the industry that would come is much more powerful and much more established than the one that would develop and would be a nascent industry. So the first thing I would do in this situation, which is an extremely complicated situation, I would seek to be much more aggressive in the production shares. That is to say, when a foreign company comes, you have to impose things on it. The Gulf countries, Qatar, the Emirates at their time, when you came to settle with them for anything, you had to give a big part, more than 50%, to a local native, a local resident of the investment. It was mandatory. The WTO did everything to knock this out, but some countries held firm, except when they really needed it. They make exceptions at the Ministry of Economy, but when they estimate that the person has to give a part, he gives a part to the natives, which trains them. You see, for example, this type of measure could be applied by some African countries. If they applied it, of course, as a whole, it would be better.
That's a fact right there. That's a fact. Everything is facts of facts of facts. I've been saying those things for a long time. You know what I mean? And again, the problem that we have in Africa, it's all about the leaders. Said loud leaders. You cannot do nothing if you have this kind of people not working for you, but controlling the country. And that's the problem. And it's crazy. It's crazy. We need more people like Ibrahim Traore, stuff like that. That have the mindset of Africa first. Taking the resources and develop my country, doing the business that we need to do to get what we need to have. You know what I mean? China comes in, we do a business, a win-win. Okay, you want that, I want that. Okay, let's go, let's do it. And the mindset of Chinese people is different, right? Because China, they produce a lot of things. They want you to be able to buy those things. So if you have a low-class people in your country, they're not satisfied with that because you will not be able to buy their goods. So they help you to help yourself to improve, to create a middle class, upper class, rich people class, so you can start businesses, developing the country, and start gaining money and start buying things. Look what they do with electric cars. They now are becoming the number one leaders that produce the electric cars in parts. So now you don't need to buy the car, you buy parts, and it's cheaper to ship in your country and cheaper to buy. And you create more jobs in your country because you ship parts and you build the car in your own country. And you employ your own people, local people. There's a lot of people in Burkina Faso doing that. They have an electric car company. They buy those parts from China. They ship them to Burkina Faso. And they use their own people to build those cars. They create jobs. Nigeria is doing the same thing. Okay? And what's going to happen in the future? Since those parts are built in China, China is going to be the number one supplier for the entire world, for those who buy electric cars in parts. That's an intelligent mindset. You see, they are different. They are not like the Europeans and Americans. They are different. They want to do businesses. They want you to develop your country. But because if you're broke, if you're poor, you cannot buy their stuff. And they will not be able to sell their stuff. Okay, that's why you see them everywhere in Africa, creating cities, unis, ports, bridges, roads, to develop the country. Okay, that's all. But we need leaders. Africa first leaders, not sellouts. Okay, so shout out to Wangel Zelalem for the video. amazing video. French professor exposes why no one wants to see Africa develop. Wangel Zelalem, thanks for the video. Shout out to you, Mama. And yeah, guys, don't forget to subscribe, to like, comment below, to watch the next video that's going to pop up here. And thank you so much for those who subscribed to the channel. That's amazing. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep pushing, guys. I need your love. Show me some love. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. This is African Minute. Okay? Show me some love. Subscribe to the channel. I need your help to grow the channel. So subscribe to the channel. And yeah, till next time. Take care of you and the family. Peace out. Thanks.